Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for stopping by the channel. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about the Tudor Black Bay 58. But as you probably are aware, there are so many videos out there reviewing this watch specifically. So I thought I would also take a bit of a tangent and discuss an affordable alternative and a watch that I personally owned as a good placeholder for the Black Bay 58, and that is the NTH Nacken. So yeah, I recently acquired a Tudor Black Bay 58. I was actually on a waiting list, and then I actually got to source this watch from a good friend that I've done a few deals with in the past. So I trust him, and this watch is in really good condition. But let's face it, nobody wants to necessarily spend thousands of dollars for a vintage-inspired dive watch, especially one like the 58 that is getting sparse to find and also is subject to price increases along with Rolex timepieces. So enter in my NTH Nacken. Now this is a micro brand, which stands for Nod to History, and you can find these NTH watches readily available online. In addition, there's also multiple color options for this particular watch, and I do think that for me it was a very nice placeholder until I could afford the Black Bay 58. Is it the best affordable alternative to a Tudor Black Bay 58? Let's find out. Okay guys, it's time for a head-to-head look between the Tudor Black Bay 58 against the NTH Nacken. Now right off the bat, I think you can see that the dimensions for this watches are quite similar, as well as the dial layouts. It is important to note the prices for both of these guys, with the Tudor Black Bay 58 undergoing a price increase at the beginning of 2020, so it's closer to $4,000 US right now. And then you have the NTH Nacken, which you can find all day for just under $700 US. Okay, let's talk about the specific dimensions for each watch. Starting with the Black Bay 58 here, you have a 39mm case. Lug to lug comes in at 47mm, and it's just under 12mm stick to a slightly domed sapphire crystal. And then the lug opening here for the bracelet is 20mm, which is a perfect size. Now let's contrast that to the NTH Nacken, which has a 40mm case. It's slightly longer tip to tip at 48mm, but it's slightly thinner than the Black Bay 58, coming in at 11.5mm to a very slightly domed sapphire crystal. And then the lug opening for the bracelet is similar with 20mm lugs. So as you can see, both watches very symmetrical. There's no date on either timepiece. You do have a similar layout for the handset, as I mentioned, with the snowflake hands, a simple minute track running around the perimeter of each dial, and then applied indices. With the Tudor Black Bay 58, you have guild writing, Tudor Geneve right below the 12. And then as far as the depth rating for this diver, it's 200 meters water resistant. It's a chronometer grade in-house movement that it runs. It runs the Tudor caliber MT5402. Obviously, it's a chronometer grade movement. In practice, I'm getting about plus 2 seconds per day. It also boasts a 70-hour power reserve. And you can see the nice sweep here. It's a 4 Hz automatic movement. So as far as printing on the NTH, it's very minimal. You do have the NTH logo just below the 12 there. It says Nacken and then 300 meters of water resistance compared to the 200 of a Tudor Black Bay here. The movement powering this watch here is a Miyota 9015 movement, which is essentially the Japanese equivalent to a Swiss ETA 2824-2, which is actually utilized fairly frequently in Tudor's lineup for their earlier subs and some of their Black Bay models. However, it's not a chronometer gauge movement in actual practice. This watch picks up about plus 8 seconds per day. It has about 42 hours of power reserve, but it has a similar beat rate, so you can see that nice fine sweep there. It's a 4 Hertz Japanese movement. I think another standout feature for both watches is their bezel and bezel action. So with the Tudor Black Bay 58, you're getting a 60-click unidirectional bezel. The Black Bay bezel is also anodized aluminum. Let's go ahead and have a listen. I mean, bar none, as far as 60-click bezels goes, the Black Bay 58 is the best in the business. It's very positive and reassuring. The alignment is spot on, and there's no backplay there whatsoever. Let's contrast that to the bezel on the NTH Nacken, which is stainless steel. It actually has some nice radial brushing onto it. All of the printing actually has luminous materials in there, and the bezel action is quite good as well. 120 clicks. It's more audible than the Black Bay, and it's tighter to turn. But I do think that the overall bezel real estate in knurling is better. It's easier to grip than it is on the Black Bay 58, and there's no play there as well. Okay, so as far as lume goes, both of these watches knock the low light visibility out of the park because the lume on both models is excellent. I'm going to throw up a low light shot so you can see the differences between the two, most notably in the color. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but the Tudor uses a Swiss superluminova that luminesces green on the handset and indices, as well as the lume pip at the 12. And you contrast that against the Nacken, which uses blue BGW9, which is lumed up very well, not only on the indices and handset, but you can just see that the bezel insert lights up like a torch as well. So I'll quickly touch on case finishing and the bracelet for both models. So with the Tudor Black Bay 58, you're getting some very nice differential brushing on the hoods of the lugs relative to the bracelet. Very nice coin edge bezel. And then if you look at the shoulder of the case, it's done in a very high polish. You can see that the crown has a very nice etched in Tudor Rose logo. It's gnarled very well. The crown is very easy to operate, and actually manually winding this movement is buttery smooth. The bracelet on the Black Bay 58 is very solid. You can actually see that it's a 3-link system that has a 20 millimeter span at the head of the watch, and then it steps down to about 16 millimeters at the clasp. The clasp is very nicely finished, and it just has a simple flip lock and like that beak and hook system you would find on Rolexes. You can see on the inside of a swing arm you have Tudor Genève printed here in high polish. And a nice feature about this clasp is closing it up. You can see and hear these ceramic pin snaps that just make it very secure. Now, a minor letdown is the levels of micro adjustment. There's only 3 micro adjustment holes. There's no dive extension or toolless micro adjustment found on this watch. And you can see that sizing the links, you have screw pins here to size, but then you have faux rivets covering some of the individual links as well. Now let's take a look at the finishing on the NTH Nacken, which is also done to a very high level, I think. Again, differential brushing on the tops of the lugs here. As I mentioned, circular brushing, that's actually on the bezel. Flipping to the side, they went with a satin side here, which for tool watches, I actually prefer this because it doesn't show scratches or smudges as easily. Again, there's no crown guards on either watch. NTH is deeply etched into the crown, and it's actually lumed as well. Now, unscrewing this crown is fairly easy, but manually winding the Miyota movement, it's a little more resistance here. It's not as smooth as the in-house caliber found in the Tudor. I do really like this nice polished bevel that runs from one edge of the case to the other, and then you get into the bracelet, which is more of a straight taper. You have 20 millimeters at the top, tapering down to about 18 at the clasp. The clasp is actually finished quite well too. You have some nice satinizing here, some nice bevels along the side. And it's a flip lock just like the Tudor, but with the added advantage of a twin trigger release here. Really nothing printed or done with the swing arms here. And closing the clasp, it's not as refined as the Tudor, but it does beat it with respect to getting a good fit, because there are 6 micro adjustment holes to the 3 that's found on the Black Bay. And on top of that, the links are screw links, but the individual links themselves articulate very well. They almost like fold in on each other. So I find this watch, this bracelet is very comfortable. There's a little bit of flex though, and it doesn't feel as solid as the Tudor Black Bay one. So let me just give you a wrist shot of both watches. Here you can see the Tudor Black Bay 58 on wrist. I just love how solid and firmly planted this watch is. And again, it's very low in profile for owning a Tudor timepiece. And here's a wrist shot of the NTH Nacken, which you can see also fits very comfortably. Proportionally, they're very close to the Black Bay 58. And I actually do find that the bracelet is extremely comfortable on this particular model. Okay guys, so that about wraps up the head-to-head comparison between these two timepieces, which in my opinion are both amazing dive watches. Now the Tudor obviously is the more sought after and expensive watch, and it does have some more refinements. You can definitely see that the level of detail and finishing is better on the case and bracelet. Obviously you're paying more for the in-house COSC certified movement. But that being said, I don't think the NTH Nacken is a bad affordable alternative whatsoever. You get excellent legibility with this watch. The dial has a bit of more texture and dimension than the Black Bay in certain respects, and it doesn't sacrifice a lot if you take into account the value proposition. Now, is this NTH Nacken definitely going to replace the Tudor Black Bay? Well, really that's up to you. For me, this was a good placeholder watch until I could afford the Tudor Black Bay 58. But again, for a watch that's sub $1,000, NTH did a really good job mimicking a lot of the design cues of the Black Bay 58. But guys, please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Can you think of a better alternative to a Tudor Black Bay over the NTH Nacken? I always read you guys' feedback, so I love to see it in the comments. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video.